Have you noticed your adult children pulling away lately? Maybe they don't call as often, or visits have become few and far between. You tell yourself they're just busy with work, with life, with their own families, and that's probably true. But what if there's something more? What if the real reason they're keeping their distance is hidden in the words you say? It's a painful thought, isn't it? After all, you raised them. You gave your best years, your energy, your heart. You were there through their scraped knees, their heartbreaks, their graduations. You love them deeply, so deeply it hurts when they don't seem to want to be close anymore. But here's the surprising truth. Sometimes it's not what you've done wrong that drives them away, it's what you keep saying without even realizing the impact. This video reveals 5 common phrases, words that might sound innocent or even loving to you, but that many adult children experience as guilt-tripping, dismissive, or emotionally manipulative. And trust me, phrase number 2 is so harmful, it's ended relationships entirely. These aren't cruel insults. They're subtle, everyday expressions used by well-meaning parents who simply don't realize the damage. But once you learn what they are, and how to replace them with healthier, more loving alternatives, you can begin healing even the most strained family bonds. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness, compassion, and growth. Because the truth is, it's never too late to reconnect. It starts with the courage to change the conversation. If you're ready to rebuild the bridge between you and your child, stay with me. This might just be the most important thing you hear today. Toxic phrase number 1, after everything I've done for you. After everything I've done for you? It sounds like a simple sentence. Just 7 words. Spoken in frustration, maybe during a phone call that ended too soon or after a missed holiday visit. But behind those words is a storm of emotion. Hurt, disappointment, longing. And yet, this phrase, often said with love and years of sacrifice behind it, can quietly push your adult children further and further away. Let's be honest, if you're a parent, you've done a lot. You've given your time, your money, your energy, your whole heart. You've sat through sleepless nights, scraped together college tuition, and stood proudly at graduations with tears in your eyes. You were there when they were sick, scared, or unsure of themselves. You gave because you love them, because that's what good parents do. So it's understandable that when your adult child forgets to call or seems distant, that pain can bubble up as, after all I've done for you. But here's the hard truth. As much as that phrase feels justified, it doesn't build connection, it creates distance. When your child hears those words, they don't hear love. They hear a ledger, a debt, a weight they can never repay. And instead of bringing them closer, it makes them feel guilty, even resentful. Because suddenly, the care and love you gave becomes a transaction. And love should never feel like a bill to settle. Take Gregory, a 76-year-old father from Phoenix. He hadn't seen much of his son lately and finally got him to join him for dinner. Over salad and small talk, the frustration slipped out. After everything I've done for you, the least you could do is call me once a week. Gregory thought he was being honest. But his son's face hardened. And then the words came out, years of bottled up feelings, resentment, pain. You make me feel like I'm never enough, his son said. I don't call because I feel guilty every time I do. Gregory was devastated. He had no idea that his attempts to stay close were actually pushing his son away. But the good news? He chose to change. With help from a family therapist, Gregory learned to speak from the heart without guilt. Now, instead of guilt-tripping, he says things like, I really miss hearing your voice. Would a Sunday call work for you? And his son, he started calling back. Regularly. The shift wasn't in what Gregory felt. It was in how he expressed it. So, if you've ever said, after everything I've done for you, don't shame yourself. You're not a bad parent. You're a human one. But now you know, it's not about what you've given. It's about what you say that determines how close your adult children feel to you. Replace guilt with grace. Swap the scoreboard for sincerity. And watch your relationships begin to heal, one honest, loving conversation at a time. Toxic phrase number 2, your spouse is turning you against me. Your spouse is turning you against me. Maybe you didn't say it exactly like that. Maybe it was more subtle. You never acted this way before you got married, or, I bet Sarah doesn't want you spending time with me. You said it out of pain, out of confusion, out of that aching question. Why don't we talk like we used to? But here's what most parents don't realize. Even when these words are whispered gently, they land like a bomb. Because in that one phrase, you're not just criticizing their partner, you're calling into question your own child's judgment. You're telling them they're weak, easily manipulated, and somehow no longer themselves. And for an adult child trying to build their own family, their own identity, that cuts deep. Barbara, a 68-year-old grandmother from Seattle, learned this the hard way. She adored her son. They used to be so close. But ever since he got married, things changed. He didn't visit as often. He was quieter on the phone. And Barbara, feeling left behind, blamed the only new variable, his wife. So she began making comments. Little digs. I miss the old you. She must not like me very much. It built up. Slowly, silently, and then, suddenly, everything shattered. At a family gathering, Barbara said something in front of everyone. Something about how her daughter-in-law stole her son. That night, her son sent a text. We need some space. Please don't contact us for now. That space lasted 18 months. 18 months of silence. 18 months of missed birthdays, holidays, and even the birth of her first grandchild. The pain was unbearable. But here's the miracle, Barbara got help. Through counseling, she began to understand what her words had done, not intentionally but deeply. She realized she had been making her son choose between his marriage and his mother. And no child should ever be forced into that decision. With humility and time, she apologized, not just to her son but to his wife too. And slowly the walls began to fall. Today, Barbara makes it a point to support their relationship, to uplift their partnership. She says things like, I love how you two work as a team. I'm still learning the best ways to support your family. How can I be more present in a way that works for all of us? That simple shift, from blame to curiosity, from resentment to respect, was everything. So if you've ever thought, their spouse is pulling them away from me, pause, breathe, and ask, what's really going on inside me? Is it fear? Loneliness? Say that instead. Let your child see your heart, not your hurt. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to win them back from someone else. It's to walk beside them as they build a life of their own with love, grace, and space for you too. Toxic phrase number 3. In my day, we did things differently. In my day, we did things differently. It sounds harmless enough, just a simple reflection on how life used to be. A nod to tradition. A sprinkle of nostalgia. But to your adult children, especially when it's said during a disagreement or offered as a correction, it can sound like something very different. A quiet dismissal of everything they're trying so hard to build. Because underneath those words they often hear, you're doing it wrong. That's how Timothy's daughter felt. Timothy, a 74-year-old grandfather from Nashville, meant well. When he saw his daughter navigating the chaos of parenting, diaper bags, sleep schedules, car seat regulations, he genuinely wanted to help. So he'd chime in my day we didn't have all these fancy rules, or, kids respected their parents back then. He thought he was offering wisdom. But to his daughter, it felt like judgment wrapped in a story. She stopped asking for his help. Conversations became shorter. Tense. It wasn't until she finally spoke up that Timothy saw the cracks. Dad, I know things were different when you raised us. But every time you say that, it feels like you don't respect how I'm doing things now. Her voice shook. So did his heart. Timothy didn't realize his memories were being heard as criticism. But here's the beauty, he changed. Not his love. Not his experience. Just his approach. He started asking questions instead of making comparisons. He'd say things like, that's new to me, can you show me how it works? Or, back when I was raising you we did it one way but I'd love to learn what's different now. And something amazing happened, his daughter opened up. She invited him back in, not just as a grandparent, but as a teammate in her journey. They laughed more, talked more, trusted more. Because here's what many parents don't realize. Every time you say, in my day, without care you risk sounding like a critic, not an ally. You might be trying to connect but instead you're creating distance. A silent competition between generations where no one really wins. But when you lead with curiosity instead of comparison, when you offer your experience as insight instead of instruction, you become someone your children want to learn from, not defend themselves against. So the next time you're tempted to say, we did things differently back then, try this instead, I'm proud of how you're raising your family. Would it help if I shared what worked for me back then? Or would you rather I just be here to support you? That shift can change everything. Because your wisdom still matters. But it lands best when it comes with open hands, not pointed fingers. Toxic phrase number 4, you never visit/call me. You never call me anymore. It slips out so easily, maybe in the middle of a lonely afternoon, or after a text goes unanswered just a little too long. You might not even mean it as an accusation. Maybe it's just how you're trying to say, I miss you. But to your adult child, those 5 words can feel like a punch in the gut. And the worst part? They often don't bring your child closer. They push them further away. That's exactly what happened to Evelyn, a 70-year-old widow from Chicago. She loved her daughter dearly, but couldn't shake the feeling that she was being forgotten. Whenever her daughter called, Evelyn would sigh, "Wow, you finally remembered me," or, "You never call anymore." At first, her daughter brushed it off. But over time, something shifted. The phone calls got shorter, then less frequent, and eventually they stopped altogether. Evelyn was heartbroken. "I don't understand," she told a friend. "I just talked to her last week." That friend gently suggested something radical: keep a journal. Write down every interaction. So Evelyn did. And what she found stunned her. Her daughter had reached out 3 times that week. A call. A photo of the grandkids. A sweet comment on Facebook. It wasn't the reality that was broken. It was Evelyn's perception. She took that revelation to a therapist, and together they unpacked the deeper feelings. It wasn't about how often her daughter called. It was about how lonely Evelyn felt in between. And instead of expressing that honestly, she defaulted to guilt. Subtle. Unintentional. But still damaging. So Evelyn made a change. She stopped keeping score and started sharing gratitude. Instead of, "You never call," she said, "I really enjoyed our talk last Tuesday. It meant a lot." Instead of, "I haven't heard from you in ages," she said, "I've been missing you, would love to plan a catch-up. What works best for you?" And just like that, the energy shifted. Her daughter no longer dreaded the phone ringing. The tension eased. The warmth returned. Here's the truth. Statements like "you never call" feel absolute. They erase all the times your child did show up. And they create pressure to be enough, to not disappoint. And when that pressure builds, your child may begin to associate contact with guilt, and they avoid it. But when you express your true feelings, that you miss them, that you're lonely, that their voice brightens your day, you invite them closer, not out of duty but out of love. So the next time you feel that old phrase rising, pause, breathe, and try something softer, something honest. "I always look forward to hearing from you. Can we find a time that works for both of us?" That small shift could be the bridge back to connection. Because your child doesn't want to be pushed. They want to be welcomed. Toxic phrase number 5, "You'll regret it when I'm gone." You'll regret it when I'm gone. It's one of those phrases that comes out in a moment of deep hurt. Maybe you're feeling forgotten, maybe you've been turned down again for a visit, or maybe you're simply missing the days when your phone used to ring more often. So you say it, not to wound but to be heard. To shake them out of their busy lives and remind them, "I won't be here forever." But here's the heartbreaking truth. What you meant as a cry for closeness can feel, to your adult children, like emotional blackmail. That's what Robert, a 78-year-old grandfather from Denver, learned the hard way. Every time his kids couldn't make it to a family dinner or didn't follow his advice, he'd sigh and say things like, "Well, one day I'll be gone and you'll wish you had listened," or, "You'll miss me when I'm dead." It wasn't meant to be cruel. He just didn't know how else to express the ache inside him. The fear of being left behind, of becoming irrelevant, of fading from the center of his family's life. But to his children, those words didn't feel like love. They felt like guilt. Like a looming shadow over every interaction. Over time they started pulling away. Calls became less frequent. Invitations declined. Not because they didn't care, but because every conversation left them feeling heavy, cornered, sad. The turning point came when Robert's oldest son sat him down and said, "Dad, we love you. But we can't keep having every conversation feel like a countdown to losing you." That hit hard. But instead of shutting down, Robert opened up. With help from a counselor, he learned that what he really wanted wasn't attention driven by fear. It was connection built on love. So he stopped using threats dressed as sentiment. Instead, he started saying things like, "Spending time with you means the world to me. I hope we can make more memories together." And slowly, something beautiful happened. His kids started coming around again, not because they were afraid of regret, but because they wanted to be near him. Here's the thing. None of us want to be remembered with a sense of guilt. We want to be remembered with warmth, with laughter, with love. But when you use your mortality as leverage, you're not building bonds, you're reinforcing walls. You're turning love into an obligation when it should always be a choice. So next time you feel tempted to say, "You'll regret it when I'm gone," stop. Instead, speak from the heart. "These moments we share, they matter more to me than anything. I hope we can create even more of them." That's what your children want. That's what you deserve. Not time earned through fear, but love returned through genuine connection. Why these phrases are so dangerous? At first glance, these phrases might seem harmless, just expressions of hurt, confusion, or nostalgia. But science tells a very different story. When phrases like, "After all I've done for you," or "You'll regret it when I'm gone," are spoken, they do more than sting emotionally. They actually trigger a stress response in the brain similar to a physical threat. That's right. According to neuroscience research from Harvard Medical School, our brains respond to emotional pressure, especially from loved ones, just like they do to danger. The body tenses, the heart rate rises, the brain signals, retreat. This is why adult children often start to distance themselves from conversations or even avoid visiting altogether. Not because they don't care, but because they're trying to protect themselves from feeling emotionally cornered. Over time, this stress response forms a pattern of avoidance. Subconsciously, they associate phone calls and family gatherings with guilt, criticism, or sadness. So they start coming around less. They don't share as much. And the heartbreaking part? Parents interpret this as rejection, while adult children see it as survival. It's not a lack of love, it's a reaction to the way love is communicated. When connection is tangled up in blame, guilt, or fear, even the most devoted child can feel overwhelmed. That's why recognizing these patterns is so powerful. Once you become aware of how these phrases land, you can begin to change the dynamic, turning tension into trust and silence into meaningful connection. Because the truth is, your children probably love you more than you know. They just can't thrive in an emotional environment where every conversation feels like a minefield. You have the power to change that. And it starts with the words you choose. 3 steps to improve communication. Changing the way we communicate, especially after a lifetime of habits, isn't easy. But the good news is it is possible. And often it starts with something as simple as a pause. If you've ever said something to your adult child that came from a place of hurt rather than clarity, you're not alone. But with just 3 small steps, you can begin to transform the way you speak, and the way your children respond. Step 1. Recognize the emotion before you speak. Before the words leave your mouth, check in with your heart. Are you feeling lonely? Or afraid of being left behind? Most toxic phrases are born from unspoken emotions. When you identify what's really going on inside, you gain the power to respond with honesty instead of defensiveness. Step 2. Pause and choose a new response. When you feel the urge to say something like, "You never call me," stop. Take a breath. Literally. A few seconds of silence can be the difference between triggering a conflict and opening the door to connection. Choose words that reflect your desire, not your disappointment. Try, "I've really missed you, can we talk sometime this week?" Step 3. Express your needs directly without blame. It's okay to want more connection. It's okay to feel lonely. What matters is how you say it. Avoid guilt. Avoid ultimatums. Instead, be real. Say, "I've been feeling a little isolated lately, and I'd love to talk more if you have time." These small shifts in communication don't just soften the conversation, they open hearts. And over time they can rebuild bridges you thought were lost. It all begins with awareness, and a willingness to try something different. If you've ever felt distance growing between you and your adult children, start by listening to the way you speak. Words that feel harmless, or even loving, to you might be received as guilt, pressure, or criticism by them. That doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It simply means the language of love needs to evolve as your children grow. Start with small shifts. Replace "You never call me" with "I always enjoy hearing from you, can we plan a time to catch up?" Swap "After everything I've done for you" with "I really miss our connection." These subtle changes turn emotional tension into honest connection. More importantly, prioritize the relationship over being right. Your children are building their own families, careers, and identities, and they still want you in their lives, but in a way that feels supportive, not stressful. Practice empathy. Speak from your needs, not your wounds. Celebrate the moments they show up instead of focusing on the times they don't. Connection isn't built on obligation. It's built on warmth, understanding, and a willingness to grow together. It's never too late to change the conversation. And sometimes, changing just a few words can open the door to years of healing and closeness. Thanks for watching. Please comment with the number 1 key to let us know you watched the whole video. We are very grateful for this. Subscribe to the channel and remember to turn on the notification bell to see other useful content. See you in the next video.